movement, let's take AI to the next level. We're breaking barriers, rewriting the code. Together we'll conquer, watch our ideas unfold. The future starts here, joining the revolution. Let's say our podcast, the ultimate solution.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first official episode of Best AI TV and Best AI Podcast, to be honest. We're bringing it out for the first time of 2025. I've got my special guests here with me today. Chris Troca, one you've probably seen on the Best AI Podcast in the past several times from Brainwork Framework podcast himself, five-time award-winning wedding DJ from the city of Milwaukee. Also runs Focused Biz, which is a marketing digital agency that he runs out of the same town over there, doing his thing, helping businesses and entrepreneurs get their start. Thanks for coming today, Chris. Nice having you.
Thanks for having me, Leland.
And our good buddy over here next to me, Jim Hankins, creator of cribops.com. He's been working with me, oh my God, for the last year now, trying to build things on the back end to make things better for our agencies. And I've brought Jim on the show today so that we can give a brief demonstration of what he's got going, along with welcoming Jim to the podcast. So thanks for being another contributing member on the show, Jim. We really are happy to have you here this year.
Thanks, Leland. It's great to be here.
All right. We're just going to take this slow and sweet because we had a lot of things happen this morning we didn't expect. We are in the making of a very large podcast. And this, I'm going to give you an example of where we're headed. This is what we're hoping to have as the group effort when we come out here as a community. As you may see, some of the names there are not present, and that is Lee Love, the photo mentor. Ross McCamey of Maverick Solutions is sick with the flu today, sorry to say, so he's unable to join us. I just got word from him this morning. And Corey Taylor may still join us. I think he's out there watching right now, trying to figure out how to get into the Zoom so that he can be a part of the show. Kari, simply go to the link at bestlive.tv/studio, and you can come on in and join us in the studio. So there he is. Look at that. See, he's here. Let's just bring him on screen. So I do hear KT. There he is. Let's pop him in the window. So I'm going to have to switch him over to a Foursquare. Let's get back to where we're at today. So this is the gang for today. Welcome to the broadcast. Kari, what do you want to be known as out here on Best AI Podcast? We're going to put a banner underneath your name so everybody knows where you're from and who
we can rock with what you got on the website, the coder. Most spaces that I operate in, most people know me by karaoke.
Oh, okay.
Because karaoke is my jam. But from a skill set standpoint, it's probably best to give some context to my area of proficiency. So
you will be the coder, but what's your business name currently that we could
Seku
utilize?
Designs. Yeah, say SEK.
Oh, okay, you can go for it.
OU,
OU,
and then Designs.
Got it. All right, cool. Yeah. So we're going to add that onto his banner today so that everybody recognizes where he's from. So to give a brief introduction to Kari, he's also another individual that's working with me and Chris on the back end of a system that we utilize for our own CRM benefits. We've built a lot of flows, automations, websites, web processes, you might say, by using this foundational system that was brought to us and we invested in. And it's brought us a long way. It's given us a lot of insight and knowledge to the CRM industry, for one, as a design agency myself. And it's also given us the tools and feature sets that we really need to advance in this AI space that we're encountering now. And guys, 2025, I think we know the year of the AI agent is what it's been claimed across the board. Jim, give me just your take right now on what, as someone who's not really involved deeply into the AI agent space itself, what's your take from the front end view of all this talk about AI and AI agents? How do you feel about it right now?
Well, certainly, I credit yourself and Ross for bringing me into this crazy thing. So folks, they tap my shoulder because I'm mostly a back-end developer and spend an inordinate amount of time looking at things that nobody understands in the back-end development and cloud infrastructure. And they wanted me to help them stand up some automations in AWS, right? And so as I dug into that, it was just truly eye-opening, the ease of use that some of these tools are providing to enable agencies to deliver, really incredible automations for business and a business transformational types of things. I'm more excited now from a technology perspective than I have been in many, many years. I've been at this for 30 plus years. And yeah, I mean, I rolled up my sleeves and started building products to be enablement technologies in this space. Yeah, just, out of the blue really fast.
I'm just happy to have brought you into the space, Jim, because I know the benefits. I see, how we're using it as a tool. Both Chris and Kari are doing the same when it comes to utilizing back-end automations and including AI in those automations. And we found that there was a cost factor obviously involved when it comes to the hosting of these automations, the processing of the LLM steps, the things that have to be are, it can substantially add up over time.
It could be a lot. A lot.
And those things that came to be, we realized, hey, there are other ways to do this. Jim, tell everybody, we just want to get a little background of everybody here. We're doing this show today as an introductory broadcast. I'm not here to present much more than a little bit of crib ops for all of you to see where we're headed in this space. But I do want you to get to know us as we move ahead in the next couple of weeks. Sadly, we don't get to introduce everybody today. But Jim, let's start with you as our special guest. Why don't you tell us more about how you got involved in IT, who you are, where you came from, a little bit about your background so people know who Jim Hankins is.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I got involved in IT in middle school, opening a box of an Apple II computer as the first computer in the school. So I've been a techno nerd for a day or two. I'm probably 30 years in IT, 9 years in the Army, and a portion of that was in IT, doing key punch cards. I've spent times as enterprise network architects for tier one automotive suppliers. I've been a consulting system architect for Cisco for about 13 years, mostly on the Ford account. And then I was the chief technology officer for a company that did emergency response coordination services. Say that fast 5 times.
Yeah,
so if you press this panic button on a satellite emergency notification device, it went through the cloud infrastructure that I built for them. And that was acquired by Garmin about 4 years ago. So I had an exit. And then, like I said, I'm a one-trick pony. And I really like passing messages around and making sure they actually get delivered and someone can see them and act on them. And so, yeah, now I'm building another thing. Yeah.
I like one-trick ponies. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And Kari, as a new member of the podcast, I'd like to know, honestly, some more of your background. We've talked a little bit in the past, but I haven't really got a full rundown of what you do, what your 30-second elevator pitch is out there. So tell everybody out there on stage what's happening with Kari Taylor. Oh, you closed your mic over there, Kari.
I'll do my best to keep it to the 30 seconds.
That's okay.
So obviously I have my company, Sekou Designs, and essentially our main goal right now is we help companies and like solopreneurs. I like to call them armies of one. I think everybody on the call knows what that looks like. We help them leverage AI and streamline their businesses, right? It's paramount, especially as we move into 2025 with the advent of how impactful and how disruptive AI has been. There's a lot of lost people out there, right? So main goal there is to help people figure that out, so it could be low hanging fruit as it relates to like AI chatbots and voice agents, or more complex implementations. It just, the focus is essentially practical solutions to free up time and take actionable steps to effectively integrate AI, right, into their workflows, current workflows, and maybe evolve that into new workflows that help them do things a little bit better. But my journey personally started as a graphic/web designer. Which, by the way, was is essentially a natural progression, and that evolved into me and a web developer, a front-end web developer. So I was a creative kid, sometimes to the detriment of my teachers. That creativity led me to a career where I've embraced technological shifts, right? So most recently, like I'd say over the last 2 years, seeing the rise of AI tools like LLMs, we adapted the company goals and services to help other businesses adapt to these innovations. So recently we started delving back into, me personally, I started delving back into speaking at conventions and masterminds. And in late 22, I was in Dubai speaking and shared some frameworks around AI and how to create email nurturing campaign sequences to drive real results, not just throw things out there. So yeah, I mean, my background is very much that. Outside of AI, I'm a tech enthusiast, like pretty much everybody else on the call, right? Nerds are winning these days. So
we are.
And I would assume most of you guys share with me in being the computer guy for my family and friends. So you know, on a personal note, I'm Team DC, although I can't deny how good the MCU is, and proud member of the PC Master Race.
Jim, on the other hand, is all about Mac, so we got to really be careful how we converse around here.
That's a podcast episode in and of itself, right?
We use both, though, so it's all good. So thanks for that, Curry. And Chris Stroke, a returning member, and he will be on and off again, host himself of Brainwork Framework. So he's been going full tilt, working with business owners and entrepreneurs on a weekly basis, if not daily. I think it seems like he's been cranking out a whole heck of a lot of content out on YouTube. So, Chris, give him a little filler on what's going on over in Milwaukee right now.
Absolutely. It's been great. And thank you for the wonderful intro earlier. It was absolutely perfect. Award-winning wedding DJ service, serving a lot of our wedding couples of southeastern Wisconsin here. Went back to school for marketing, eventually got into the marketing automation area, helping businesses. Been a lot of fun working with more tools. The podcast here has been great for having B2B one-on-one conversations with people in my audience. We're creating content. They're teaching me new tools. I'm teaching them new tools. Just had a TEDx speaker come on, and she was worried about extracting all these podcast episodes she's been on to create content from them. And she was like, oh yeah, I just press this record button and wait the 30 minutes until the episode's done. I said, that's how you're extracting your audio here. There's a tool for that. And I think just the wave of technology we've seen, this is going the way. Just now, people are being introduced into AI for the first time, and their first introductory experience is a Facebook filter. Maybe they became a Viking. Their profile picture on a Viking background, which is really cool. But this is just the beginning of a lot of AI, how it's being used in tools, saving me a ton of time. We're just able to produce a lot more content. Even last night, as we were chatting about tools, I was building a backend automation for long form SEO content. So it's just something that is second nature to us. It's again another innovative technology that we're hoping to use ourselves and implement into other businesses as well.
I love it. All right. For anyone that's watching the feeds today, honestly, there are a lot of them going out. So we have some going out to Facebook on several channels, Best AI TV, Best Live TV. We also have the YouTube channel pumping out. So if you're coming in on any of those feeds, we're not monitoring the comments at this time, but we will be in the future, and we'll actually be bringing them on screen for some of you to witness the conversations that are taking place with our audience. So we're looking forward to doing that as we move ahead. And what you're going to see is a little banner pop up each time we have one of these conversations with the people out on stage. We will make that part of the broadcast as we move ahead, but we have limited time here today. So we're just going to run through the process. If you are here and you're watching and you want to be notified of next week's broadcast, simply go to Best AI TV and you can sign in the form at the bottom of the page. You can also find all of our feed locations across YouTube, Spotify, and we probably will get out on Amazon at some point or another. We do have feeds on 8cast that will be broadcast out to all the audio locations as well. So looking forward to all of that. If you haven't seen any of our broadcasts in the past, we like to have fun. We like to get together and be a little jovial about this because we're bringing AI to you guys. We're not the tech guys that are building it. In essence, the LLMs and all of the other technical stuff that's back in the back end, like you see behind Jim over there. But what we are doing is helping people learn and provide services that get you to build your business faster, better, and leaner using AI. So let's start with Jim. I really want to get involved in what Jim has brought to the table. So I'm really excited. Jim, just give us a little introduction about what CribOps is all about, and I'll throw some screens up as you go.
Sure. Yeah. So CribOps is essentially a front door to webhooks that makes your webhook production ready in the event that you're interested in running normally as a fire and forget type of use case for webhooks, and put a production ready, load balanced front end to it. And then we take the message as it comes in and we put it in a queue. And what that gives you the capability of doing is, one, buffering. If you have a large amount of orders that are coming in, things like that, we can be a buffer in between you and the world in getting order processing, order fulfillment types of jobs in. And then we can also store that message in the event that you have a momentary outage. So if your on-premise location has a single internet connection, for example, or a single processing unit on-premise, we're storing that message long enough for you to resolve the issue, come back online, and start consuming the message again. So we're essentially putting a message broker in between you and the world for your webhooks. And then you can create as many webhooks as you need and point them at wherever you need to point them. It doesn't have to be on premise. It can be out on the public as well, and just be part of a complete breakfast of a webhook process to solve customer problems or solve your own organization's problems.
Very cool. Now I'm filling Carie's spot for just a moment. I'm going to be switching over to a full screen in a second because I had to get a window out here. So what I'm going to do is kind of demonstrate for a moment while Jim discusses what this is capable of, how we've connected, and I'll discuss what I've done with it. I'm running an internal lab on an M1 sitting on a file cabinet. It's about 2 inches thick, runs on the Mac interface, and it allows me to run an application inside of a Docker container. If you're not familiar with Docker, it's a virtual process that allows you to run software within a container as a virtual element rather than actually installing the software into your operating system. So this allows me to build several different containers. And in this case, I have one operating N8N. The reason we're doing this is to create a flow from an outside source, in this case, an outside AI web chat widget, or a chat bot, you might say. So we have a chat bot here that I've constructed for AIO, and I'm going to actually head over to the webhooks API for the system that allows us to grab the leads that come in from the webhook on the web chat widget. So if somebody goes over to the website, enters their name and email within the web chat widget, it's going to come across through this connection into the webhook. And in order to do so and collect it into our CRM, we're going to have to pass this webhook through a process. And in this case, we're going to use N8N, but it's on a private server inside a local host, which makes it impossible to reach from the outside world. And thanks to Jim, he's given us with CribOps the ability to come into the system and add a webhook within our own network infrastructure. And Jim, you want to tell them about how this works?
Yeah, so that's the view where you're able to add endpoints. So that's like the destination of N8N, for example. When you go to create a new endpoint, it's actually creating a queue on your behalf in between you and the publicly accessible webhook. And then once that's done, you see there's a little copy.
It looks like you updated my license key, Jim. It's got to launch it login. Don't you love it when we come out here to show somebody something and I go to fire up my version of it?
Yeah.
And it looks like the settings are...
Yeah. So essentially what you do with that blue copy thing is that's where you copy your public endpoint, and then you place it wherever you need to place it to receive the message. The other thing we can do is we can run multiple endpoints. So it's not a point-to-point solution because it's got a message broker there. You can have multiple consumers either competing for the same queue or receiving the exact same copy and doing something different at the same time. With it. So for example, one could be for order fulfillment, the other could be for, logging or, any kind of summarization workloads that you have. So, yeah.
So let me ask you, Jim, since we ran into this, all right, because I want this to be a totally transparent broadcast. I'm not here to try and push the sale of products in a sense. I want people to gain the products they need to do the job they have to do. And if we, in experimenting and demonstrating and showing off all the things that we build or create, and we fail in any way whatsoever, I want to actually show us troubleshoot a problem that we run into to say, okay, well, we ran into a problem. And what did we have to do to fix it? This is one of those things that I hate to see people get embarrassed. You know what I mean? That if something fails failure is inevitable. We have to accept failure, and it's the only way we can move forward. So, Jim, in this case, what happened was you updated your software, and I didn't get the latest update. So it looks like either somehow my license key was revoked from the software copy I have. So all I need from you at this moment, if you can forward it to me in Telegram, I'll copy. If you can send me the
your license key. Yeah, sure.
I'll throw it in, and we
Yeah.
should be fine, and we'll be able to demonstrate this. So this is just one of those situations. You know, Jim's created a software that he's constantly updating right now to add a few extra features. And if he does so at the last minute, and I didn't talk to him about the actual latest version before we started the show, so I got shut out of the software. And what we're going to do is just add the license key real quick. We'll fix this, and then we'll be able to actually demonstrate it. So, Kari, let's get to you while we're doing this real quick. Why don't you tell us how you're applying AI daily in your business acumen? I know you're spending a lot of time in there, and I'm going to put you on screen so you can kind of poke around with people. Just give them a rundown of what you're seeing AI playing in as on your end, you know, how you benefit the most from it. Let us know. Oh, you got to stop muting yourself, Kari. I'll worry about all that. I got full control of your volume, so don't bother muting unless you got dogs barking or babies crying. We'll be good.
Yeah, that's my issue. One of my neighbor's dog is outside and it's barking every so often, so I didn't want to mess up the feed.
Even hear that because the filters in Zoom should be strong enough to filter
that. It's just precautions. But yeah, for sure. Noted. So yeah, I inside my business, ultimately, like I said, a lot of what we do is helping people. I mean, recently with the low-hanging fruit, like that initial push into you know, the you don't want to become blockbuster ideology. You know, you're either a business using it or you're not. And if you're not, the problem is that everybody else will be, so you'll get left behind. If for no other reason but a throughput and bandwidth standpoint, right? You can just do so much more when you leverage AI. So a lot of it is that. But inside my business, ultimately what we do, the way we leverage AI is we build out frameworks once tasks meet the acceptance criteria of redundancy.
Gotcha.
Right. So like essentially, if there is a repetitive task, even if it's a net new task and the future of it is like, well, we want to rinse and repeat this, and there are certain variables that need to change within that, more often than not, I'm going to build out a framework. And that framework can be very simple. It can be multi-prompted. It can be complex. It just depends on the use case. So a lot of it is that, you know, it's very much behind the scenes, kind of like the grassroots effort of those different types of new frontiers within the business. You know, just this, like I said, just this last few years, we have drastically modified our services in such, even the stake, you know, the plain services that we do and have done for years, like web development, graphic design, web development, social media management, ads, and all those kinds of things, drastically change how we even you know, do discovery meetings for clients. So a lot of that stuff is what we leverage it internally. Obviously, we use the things like, you know, the AI voice agents to schedule meetings, and that probably for me is the biggest thing personally. Is I very rarely, when I'm at a conference or I'm dealing with anything, do I actually set my schedule. I give people a phone number to call, and my AI agent picks up and says, "Hey, this is Jenny, Kyrie's AI assistant. I can help you with X, Y, and Z. What can I do to help?" And you know, that has been a game changer for me inside my business. So that definitely helps me optimize the things that I know need to happen, but I don't want to have to be in the day-to-day on it. So
gotcha. All right, and since we're on that whole concept, let's get Chris up on the screen too, because we did get the license key. I've got it activated, so everything's good on the crib ops end. Chris, tell us, I know you use AI on a daily basis for a lot of your proposal work, a lot of other things that you do in your wedding business, along with your podcast business. So can you tell us a little bit of how you're applying AI on a daily right now?
Absolutely. So for me, this is helping with a lot of the formats, the SOPs, the frameworks that I'm putting in. This is from creating podcast titles, descriptions, and social media content automatically from their form submission. For me, I like to focus the implementation of AI to improve customer experience, lead nurturing, with the ultimate goal of removing friction from the buyer's experience. I find too often that businesses are gatekeeping information, or they require you to set up a meeting or take these extra steps, whereas many people prefer to self-serve or at least have that as an option. So things like the voice agent just improves your speed to lead, the customer service, people prefer to have those options available. So in terms of the customer service sphere as a whole, I think people should focus on implementing AI as a self-service option. Again, just as an option as a human employee might provide as well. I think it's important to have both.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, well, I'm going to jump back over. We're up to about the half-hour mark, and I didn't really intend on these podcasts to be the hour-long podcast that they used to be in the past. We spent a lot of time in like a workshop format originally, but with the new concept that we're doing over at Best AI TV, we're going to try to provide you with the best AI content available, whether it's from ourselves or even from others. So we're going to limit the time frames that we do these podcasts as far as time goes. I figure we'll hold it to about 45 minutes. So for the next 15 minutes, guys, we're going to cover crib ops and give you guys a quick run through, this time at least, on how the system actually functions. So we've managed to get the ID in so that we have our endpoints operational now. They are activated and we can get to them. And I'll explain from this point, Jim, anyway, and maybe once we get to the queue and everything, we can talk about how that functions. So I've created 2 endpoints that are going to match up to New Oaks AI, which is a base foundational software that I use to run AIO chatbots. So I've created a white label brand off of this, and I have my own system, but I'm just using the back end system of New Oaks for a moment because I really do appreciate what Ray Luano, the CEO over at New Oaks, has done for us to help develop this project. We met with Ray over a year ago when he started this as a simple chatbot, and he's taken it to levels that we did not expect him to do. You can find me and Ray every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on the New Oaks AI podcast. So come over there on YouTube as well at New Oaks AI and check us out. So we're going to verify a successful connection here. What I've done is copied over the link that Jim provides in his software. So if you remember back on his end, let's shrink this down a little bit so we have a couple of windows here to work in. It's a little difficult sometimes with this smaller space to work. So we have the N8N running, we have the crib ops running, and we also are showing basically the browser that's available for New Oaks so that I can make the connection. So I've copied the link that is set up for basically New Oaks leads to Google Sheet is what I'm doing here. I've created a workflow that's going to capture the leads as they come in. Ray requires a signature. Jim was kind enough to set up the true authorization method that most people utilize, but it was something that Ray implemented and we were able to accommodate for. So in the webhook, what happens is we simply copy the webhook internally, which is a local host connection that we can't access from outside. So Jim, tell us a little bit about what we would have to do in a case like this while I'm kind of poking around here.
Yeah. So one way that you can accomplish is, and the way that most people do that are doing it on premises, they'll use something like a zero trust connection or a proxy, Cloudflare zero trust proxy to expose that particular N8N endpoint that's on premise to the world, right? And that works great, typically. But that's solving connectivity. That's which is part of the equation. So you do need to have your webhooks publicly accessible. But the other aspect you need to kind of think about is what is the purpose of the webhook, and what is tied to that webhook, and what are the ramifications if a single webhook were to not be delivered at all. Most of the time, these systems are kind of silent failures. People may be familiar with, if you're using something like Stripe payments, for example, and they have webhook systems, they nicely will at least let you know or after a period of time that, hey, your webhook's been failing. But it's usually after it's been failing for quite some time, and then they advise you, yeah, we're just not going to send to that webhook anymore. And if you miss that email, all of those webhooks have not taken place, right? And if it has anything to do with customer satisfaction, that's not super awesome. The other thing is
ugly. Yeah. Sure.
the other thing is that when you do discover something like that's happening, oftentimes you're going to have to kind of recreate whatever it is that needs to be sent back through your system, and so it fixes the problem, or the order is fulfilled, et cetera. So now you're sifting through logs or whatnot to have that happen. I will say once again, kudos to Stripe, because they at least have an ability for you to go and sign in and resend a webhook. So a few providers do that, most don't. right? So connectivity is only part of the equation. CryptOps solves that part, but it also adds that buffer and storage capability in between, so that you handle all those kinds of things.
And that's the beauty for us, is the queue, honestly, because we're running operations consistently, and we may never know if a node fails, for one. And if it were to fail, and all kinds of signals are coming in from someone else's form across, the country, we don't know necessarily immediately that those aren't coming in, like Jim says. So if my M1 goes down because of a power failure, or the cat chews the Ethernet cord or something like that, and I'm not aware of it, all kinds of signals. Yeah, all
totally
kinds,
could happen,
especially with Jim and his 7 cats over there. One of the things that happens is Jim's system is holding the queue for you. So until you come back online, it's still stacking responses. And then when you do come online, here comes the flood, you might say. So what we've been able to do, let's go back to the demo for just a moment. I'm going to take this webhook, well, I already have, and I've copied it into the CribOps. So what I was able to do was take that CribOps link, like Jim said, you copy the link here for the public endpoint. And what I did was I took that over to New Oaks, installed it in where they want me to enter the webhook. And now I can verify the webhook success by simply opening up the port and asking it to do the same, listen for the test serve, and I should be able to get a request from the server and get a full status, and I received the URL verification success. So thanks to Jim, he added the status success, which you see here he required as a response status. It had to start with at least success, and that was good to go. So now each time a lead fills out the form, this flow will fire. And in the process of doing so, for instance, on this one, I can stop listening now. It's going to bring in the data that it needs to. Now, I'm not going to fire all the data through here, because if I do, it's just going to be senseless. But what I'm basically doing is adding the data point within the browser. So now once it gathers the data, let me see if I can actually head to the chat widget and see if it'll take it. Let me just say hello. And I don't know if this is going to be an immediate response webhook here. So you see the form pops up, and I'm going to have to enter my name and email. I'm just going to use my Best Studios email here. This is easy to get to. It's a Gmail account, and we'll see if it actually sends out. But you could add notes if you wanted to. In this case, I'm not going to. I'm just going to send it. So this creates the lead. It should create the lead anyway, once the form is submitted. And then it's going to bounce to this webhook, and it's going to pass through my N8N flow. At least that's the principle behind it. So it's waiting, it's active. If the trigger fails, it's probably on my end. So it's just something we're working with right now to show how these things execute. And then what it's going to do is verify the signature, split the content out of Jim's body, which he sends a message as a body. If you're familiar with JSON code, what's going to come through here is a field that we split out. And let me see if I can verify his signature. It doesn't look like it brought the content in yet. Let me execute the previous nodes and see if it'll pull that. Like I said, the one problem I may have here is it's not going to pull the data immediately, because Ray has set up, I think, a time frame where the hook shoots the data to you like once or twice a day, and you get the data in your CRM. For some reason, I'm not getting a connection here. So let me see. Let's go back. We're going to double check. Again, I want these to be transparent.
Leland, do me a favor, since you did that license activation, whichever endpoint it was that you're sending to, just go and disable and re-enable the little toggle button, right?
Gotcha. Okay. And it's possible I don't have the latest update either, Jim, I suspect. So
okay.
Let me see if could that cause an issue. Let me see if I do.
Probably not. No.
Let me see what it does. Yeah, maybe I'm current. No, it says I'm running the latest version.
Okay.
So I did turn it off, did turn it back on. Let me verify I have the right webhook installed here, because maybe I recreated and didn't realize it. No, I got the success. So if I'm verifying the webhook,
we'll actually send a success on acceptance, regardless, right? So when you send the request to us, it's we're accepting it. Whether it goes to nowhere is on you for the consumption.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm looking for here. I'm trying to turn
so I see two. Yeah, I see two messages in the queue.
So they are there
now. Yeah, they're there. Yeah.
Okay, so I should be able to receive them.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I'm getting listen for the test event.
Well, so test event is a different, remember that's a different, with N8N, it's a different queue.
Though. Yeah, it is activated though. It was saved.
But what I'm saying is you have two different endpoints that you're pointing to.
It worked. Okay.
Right.
No, we're fine.
Okay.
Everything. No, this was from the 7th of January.
Yeah. Right. But just so just point when you're hitting test, that is a different URL than the production one.
I don't have the production one going. You're right.
Yeah. So if you want to test, you can use that, but it's just you're going to do the stop and restart every time. But but you can actually just show the payload of one of the previous executions, so they could see that if you want.
That's a lot easier. I'm sorry, guys. It was my bad for the fact that I queued that up in the wrong instance. So
So if you just click on any one of those, the important thing to realize is that we actually preserve the headers that are sent. So we include that whatever was included in your header or whoever the third party was that sends the webhook, we include that because oftentimes that includes like signature information that you are then going to importantly check against the payload, which we also preserve, so that you can validate that the webhook is actually coming from who they say they are, right? So you don't have someone gaming your order fulfillment system. So that that works with any party that does those types of things. So we're really just converting a webhook into a message, and in turn, your crib link software consumes against that queue, and then you send it again. Currently, we're supporting HTTP and HTTPS endpoints, but in the future, we'll also support other types of protocols like webhooks or like MQTT, more interactive, real-time protocols in the event that you have resources at your site that can support that. So WebSockets and things, right?
Okay. So what I wanted to show them with regard to the JSON output that's coming to N8N is Jim is incorporating a body-body structure. So you're going to go look for the body within the body, and his entire payload is notified right here. So you're going to want to pull that as a split out using N8N so that you're just pulling the body context. And then from there, we're going to add some fields to split it out into the format that's necessary to store it into the Google Sheet. So the Google Sheet's going to have its header containing all of the items you see here, the serial number, type, first name, last name, email, phone number, create time, content, if there is any within the content of the note that you saw in the form, and then the session ID it took place in, along with the URI return domain from where it came from. So really cool that we are now able, without having to even consider going out and creating a big cloud, creating a Cloudflare account, say that 5 times fast, isn't that it's pulling away from that. If I wanted to put a domain on my N8N, I'm still going to want to go to Cloudflare, add a domain, and give myself a route to it if I want to make it publicly accessible on a domain name. But with Jim's ability through CribOps, we're now able to just skip and bypass all that if we want to. We don't need to have that access. But Jim, if we were remote, what would we need to do to say access our website? We'd still have to have Cloudflare, right?
Yeah, or other services like that, WireGuard and all the various services that enable you to expose an on-premise service for interactive use cases. This is well suited for event-based, like asynchronous events and processing those events where the user isn't necessarily, interactively on there. It can be very fast still, and you can use the system to call back to that user. Say, for example, one way would be you have an application with a WebSocket connection, right? So it's able to be then communicated with your N8N to advise it that the process is done. So the user gets a progress and waiting type of a user interface element. You're asynchronously processing the message and then getting it back. So you can use it with chat, but not in the traditional sense of a real time direct connection. You can do both. Right, so we don't remove the or negate the necessity to do those things if you need it for interactive use. We're strictly solving the problem of event processing and adding some resilience and buffering capability so that you can handle spiky workloads.
The queue was huge. And just as a last minute, because I want to wrap this up in the next couple of minutes, and I want to thank Kari and Chris both for showing up and having limited talk time on the broadcast today. But we will be opening up those channels significantly. I want all of you guys to bring a few minutes to the table each time where you can give some demonstration of how you utilize what you have for workflows, how you're building and using AI. So we will be sharing, just like we are here today with Jim's stuff, with both of you and any of the others that come on as hosts and co-hosts. So Jim, what I do want to ask about, just as the last thing, was the dead letter queue that you're working on and all that. Can you give a quick rundown of how that's actually going to be functioning?
Yeah, so we did that, add that on the last iteration. And so dead letter queues in the messaging world is essentially, once you have a queue, if you have a message in the queue that is unprocessable, not able to be processed for whatever reason, it could be munged up payload. It could have gotten corrupted in transit, or someone didn't do input validation. And so what ends up happening is you have a loop, right? Because the consuming application is going to try to get the message, and you're just going to be stuck, in this infinite loop, right? So you could tell the message broker, hey, let's set a rule that says after 3 times trying to process this message, or whatever the arbitrary thing is, let's take that message out of the front of the queue and stick it in another queue, so that a person or process can go and process that. So you don't jam up the whole, queue waiting for one bad apple. They call it a poison pill in the messaging world, right? So we added that capability as well. So now at option, when you're going to add your endpoint, you can check a box and say, I'd like to actually see what's in the dead letter queue, and I want you to send it. Obviously, you're going to send it somewhere else, right? Because you can't send it to the same place that you're sending it, because that's where the errors are. So you send it to and what I typically do is send it to an N8N workflow that doesn't attempt to parse
just
the message.
Dead webhook kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's just like grab the payload and then notify you. I've done this in the SOS world. We had a system for alternate delivery because we were concerned that we would miss an SOS message if it was corrupt. The machine might not be able to process it, but a human could still look at the payload and see, oh, this is their lat long, this is who they are, and figure it out and act on it, right? So you can do the same thing with this simple checkbox. You point another destination URL and do whatever it is you want with it. So rather than us build like a logging tool and all that kind of stuff inside, we're just giving you the ability to leverage what you already have and use what you would like to act upon failed messages.
I love it. All right, so let's put a wrap on this. Guys, do you have any questions? If there's anything that do you see you being able to utilize this, or are you still spinning your head like, I don't get it yet? Because it could be that for some of you. That's why we're bringing Jim on consistently, so that we can show more of the benefit capabilities that he's developed over at CribOps. So for all of you watching, head over to cribops.com, check out what Jim has put together. I'm sure he's happy to sit down and talk with all of you to figure out what works best in your particular situation. And guys down below, why don't you give us a way to get a hold of you real quick, Kari? Go ahead and tell them where to find you.
Yep. You guys can reach me at my website. You can go to seikudesigns.com. All my contact information will be there for you guys to reach out, drop a line, ask any questions, things like that. I'm also, obviously on Facebook as my name, Kyrie. Same thing with Instagram. So
cool.
So yeah.
Chris, give them a rundown.
Everyone can find me over on Facebook and LinkedIn, and the website is focus-biz.com.
Perfect. Love you. All right. And as far as the rest of us, if you want to find out what's going on the weekly when it comes to Best AI Podcast, head over to Best AI TV. You'll be able to find us listed there. All of our locations are available. You can't miss a thing. All of our audio broadcasts will be put out on Acast and Spotify. If you ever feel like staying away from the whole social thing, and again, we'll have a full listing of the crew here available so that you guys can take a look. Brad's going to be leaving us this year, I believe. He's running Awaken Nation podcast, which has reached the top 10% on Spotify. So we're really happy for Brad. He's going to be a busy guy moving forward. But if you want to sign up for notifications of the future broadcasts, just come on over here, add your name, email, and phone number. If you ever need to get a hold of me, there's an 800 or an 888 number there at the top for you to follow along with. And we will be broadcasting Wednesdays at 12 noon for the remainder of the year, as far as we're concerned, I'll be coming out daily to do some YouTube videos and some shorts and get you guys to see how we do those productions as well. So until next week, we're just going to kind of put a wrap on this and call it the first episode of Best AI Podcast for 2025. Thanks for visiting, everybody. We appreciate all your support. We need you here to keep things rolling, and we really hope to bring a lot of value to the table. So thanks, guys. Say goodbye. We are out of here.
Thanks for having us.
Later, guys.
Thanks all.
We're breaking the mold. With AI fusion, let the story unfold. From art to business, the future is here. Unlock the potential, make it crystal clear. Yeah. It's time to fuse, let the sparks ignite. AI in action, reaching new heights. Love and business blending into one. AI fusion, the journey's just begun.